Hey everybody, my name is Crystal Brown and I am affectionately known as Coach Crystal. And today you are on the Steps and Stages YouTube channel or Facebook page watching one of our client spotlights. Our client that we're spotlighting today is Jaamil Kosoko, and we are so excited to have him here because not only is he a maker and a visionary in his own right, it's interesting to also collaborate with a client on building something that is beautiful and sustainable. So, Jamil, tell us a little bit about how or why you decided to do this work.
Mhm. I believe it was time. It was time to really invest in myself, to hold myself accountable, um, and to find ways of doing the deep work that I needed to do, that I need to do in shared and sacred community.
That's good because a lot of us, right, we get to a place where we can sustain what we've been doing,
Hmm.
but in order to get better or go deeper, that doesn't happen alone.
Exactly.
And many of us are waiting for like a circumstance, a situation, or a condition to push us or challenge us or make us break down so we can build it back up. But your choosing this was out of a way of evolution. Tell us a little bit about the more that you're doing now that was not that you weren't doing amazing things before, right? But the more that you're doing now that's a part of this process.
Yeah. I mean, I would say certainly evolution, certainly a need to, um, I think, be more uh, proactive
Mm. Hmm.
um, in my decision making, in my planning, and my, my value systems,
Yeah.
my ethics. It's all so intertwined. Um, I think especially as you grow, through the course that, you've presented, um, yeah, you really begin to see how so many of these, uh, tools really shape and influence others,
Yeah.
in all aspects of your life, so it's so cyclical.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna say, right, like creative to creative, oftentimes we're like, that's too simple. That
Mm,
can't be right.
mm,
You mean if I do this, this, and this, like this is that can't be right. Like it has to be bigger. It has to be right. And so when you talk about the tools, have you also had to kind of overcome that thought process of like, really do this like one plus one?
oh yes, for sure, for sure. And turns out that, yeah, I mean, this way of sort of just knowing how to, I want to call it self-correct.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way that I've had to learn to self-correct
Yeah.
my thinking. When I hear, obnoxious old paradigm voices, beginning to creep in, self-correct,
Yeah.
and I find myself, outside of the Bakari, you know, um, outside of that sort of life mission, life force. It becomes really clear, self-correct,
Mm-hmm.
um, whenever I'm, uh, really sort of deep in process and end up getting myself, worked into a flutter, or, you know,
Wound up.
wound up for no reason. It's like, okay, calm down.
Yeah.
Let's return to center. Let's go back. And so again, it's just being able to identify, some of this old thinking, and really compare, contrast it to who I am now and who I want to be. And
Mm.
there's this way that I feel really grateful, especially like when we were back in the vision builder course, but just really, these tools that can feel very esoteric and
Uh-huh.
like, what do I do with this? I don't know. But then there's a way that you really, you align and you clarify and you really spell it out in such a clear way that, it really helps for me to also unpack, I mean, the fear thing, that was a big one,
Yeah.
overcoming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the fear, identifying the resistance, why, now I really lean into the fear. I'm like, let's unpack this. What does it have to teach me?
Right.
Fear as feedback kind of thing. But yeah, it took a while for me to get there.
Yeah, but I just want to honor that, right? That it took a while to get there, but you kept doing the work,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? Like, I just want to say to the people who are watching, I'm not offering a community that is a quick fix,
Mm,
right?
mm,
We're not checking off boxes and you're not getting certified. We're doing deep excavation of the patterns that you've been using to quote unquote survive and build new rituals to thrive. That's a different practice. And so
mm,
when Jamil's talking about fear, like we spend a lot of time unpacking fear because fear is such a chameleon that can show up in your life as safety, security, planning, over planning, perfectionism. We have to know how it shows up for you because it's custom made to you and your experience. Huh.
mm.
So, a fear was a big one for you, Jamil,
Yes.
right? And internally continuing to notice where it shows up because it can change. The other thing that I think is really remarkable about what you just said is when you're self correcting, right? Because that really is the practice. Because we're not self correcting as right or wrong, we're
Mm.
self correcting as this person that you've been or the person you want to become.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Without judgment,
Yes.
yeah, like it really is just an acknowledgement. Oh, this attribute or this trait, I no longer need you. I
Mm,
can let you go now.
yes.
I have other things to welcome, into my lexicon, into my life, into my vision and
Yep.
life
Yep.
force and thinking. So that's really, how I've thought about, this progress and doing this work. We oftentimes are, I'll share some of my thinking just around, forgetting and how, so much of this process for me has been, yeah, this way of releasing and shedding,
Mm-hmm.
some of these ways of thinking that literally clog the brain and just are really unuseful,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and how to create more space and room for the vision, for what it is that I desire, and not to judge that, but just again to unpack like why do you want that? Is that what
Yeah.
you really want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will that get you where you really want to be?
Yeah.
So just going, a little bit deeper, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit deeper, a
Yeah.
little bit deeper.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that's the practice, right? Because we're like, people are like, well, what's gonna make you happy?
Yeah. Hmm.
That's great, but happy is temporary.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you grow out of that stage of your life, you're going to want something else. Right.
Yes.
And that's okay because we can be grateful and still want more, but we have to acknowledge that we are evolving along with the desire and the expectation, not that it's a finite place. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Look, I'm successful. Look, I got the house. Look, I got the car. I got the family, the husband, the wife. They get stuck in those paradigms that said, I did it. And then they feel like, what's next? Or that they have no choice but to stay there and keep doing that.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that kind of like stuckness. I think if anything has been my issue is just like, oh my God, there's so many things to choose from. There's so
Yeah.
much abundance,
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and I'm so incredibly grateful for the various ways that abundance, shows up for me,
Yeah.
and continue to show up, and reflect so brilliantly and beautifully. But it can feel overwhelming, sometimes.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I'm glad
and
you said that. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and so another part of this, I think, because no one really, like I feel like we do a lot of work around striving, how to like really, work hard to get the thing or whatever,
Yeah.
like we perfect the art of striving.
Mm-hmm.
But once we get to a point where really, there, we can, for a moment, if only for a moment, to
Yeah.
sit and like acknowledge and share the gratitude of this life and this work. and how it's been able to be shared with others, you know, yeah, I keep coming back to, the way in which, another part of this work has been learning how to accept that abundance and how
Yeah.
to move inside of it and through it and not to be sort of sidetracked
Right, right.
or too comfortable even, like we
Hmm.
talk about comfort a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
cancer of comfort, yeah.
So the thing here, when you talk about comfort, is interesting, right? Because, okay, we talk about comfort, and people think that comfort is, complacency.
Hmm.
But there's these three words that are really in there together: comfort, complacency, and contentment.
Hmm.
There is a way to acknowledge that you have found a level of contentment without getting too comfortable or complacent. But
Hmm.
without acknowledging that striving paradigm that got to get more, got to do more, got to be more, will just continue to perpetuate, and you won't acknowledge any of your growth. So, like when we're talking about building that success momentum, because we are always prepared to fail, we're
Hmm.
always prepared to get hurt in emergencies, we're always prepared for those things. We don't prepare ourselves for winning.
That part.
And if you're continually to strive for something, but you haven't said what it's going to feel like when you win, then what do you know to do except go back to zero and start the whole process over because that's all you know how to do?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so I feel like I'm getting better at not only winning, but like this practice of acknowledging
Yeah.
and tracking, right? Tracking the takeaways
Hmm.
and being able to just acknowledge, and to do that more publicly as well. Because I can sometimes get very, I don't know, just kind of peculiar around the things that I have or whatever. But yeah, being able to honor that and to share that um, more openly now. That's been something that I mean, I'm still working through that,
Yeah.
um, but I'm getting I'm getting there.
Yeah. Well, because, we're also trained, right? Like if you're talking about yourself,
Yeah.
then that's your ego or you're bragging. Like, but honestly, if we're not talking about what we're doing well and who we are and the gifts we have, then the people around us have no idea how to engage with us.
Mm, true.
And if they continue to engage with us based on their assumptions, then we
Yes.
have no opening and no invitation to be our full selves with them.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Right? So I don't think it's bragging. I think it's like, listen, I don't know if you know, but I'm really dope at this thing over here. like, like I don't know if you've seen it, but let me tell you what I really do. Like I know
Yeah.
you see me like, on the pictures, but like here's the real deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I love that. I love that like you're also coming to a place where you're owning your vocari and your brilliance and are able to state that to people without having to feel like you have to hide or shrink or make them feel comfortable.
Exactly. I'm getting better at it, and I think a part of it has been learning to accept compliments better. I think there
Hmm.
used to be a time when I, feel like, like kind of, oh no, or whatever, like disown the compliment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially like when you're in the Uber, and you're like abroad somewhere and they want you to, they're like, oh, what brings you here? What are you? What? I'm touring my book right now. And like, oh, you must be an incredible writer and speaker. And I'm like, yes, I am. I
Yes, you
am
are. Yes,
an
I am.
incredible speaker and writer.
Yes, right.
That's
Because
why I'm
then
here.
sometimes we have to rely on strangers
Yeah,
to
to
give us the
remind us.
affirmation.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right, right. That's another thing, right, that I think is really dynamic about our community is that the first thing you have to do is introduce yourself to a stranger.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, like in our cohorts, like you're not in there with friends. We're in there with people who are trying to grow. And so you have to assume that personality that you want to create for yourself and stand in that power and have people engage with you at that level because that's what reinforces the new you.
exactly. But on top of that, even, I've been really trying to engage in this reintroduction to myself, honestly,
Mm,
like on a daily basis as a part of my affirmation, like my daily affirmation practice,
yeah.
is just like, yeah, you are powerful, you are health, you are wealth, you are,
Mm-hmm.
and we're moving in this brilliant direction. Let's go, let's do it. I really have to have to give myself that pep talk.
Yeah.
But it helps, and I've learned, I've had to accept the power of manifestation, and how powerful I am inside of this work of manifestation,
Yeah.
especially as it pertains to my own life.
Correct, right? Because again, we talk a lot about this in our mastermind level a lot. You can manifest a thing, but if you haven't transformed who you are, that thing is no good to you.
Mm, mm, mm,
Right?
mm.
Like, we know that. We're like, what am I going to do with this thing when I don't feel worthy of this thing?
Exactly,
Right?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So, Jamil, if you were, going to talk to a friend, a colleague, if someone walked up to you and was like, what should I do? Why are you doing this work? Is it going to work for me? What would you
Hmm.
say?
Hmm. I would say, it's gonna work as well as you let it work. Like
Hmm.
the curriculum is there. How you apply it, how you perform in it, how you accelerate through it is really up to you. It's
Hmm.
your choice. But you
Yeah.
do, through your support, Crystal, and this incredible cohort and community of folks, you have a system of believers that can, get you to where you strive to go. But that is only when you are able to articulate clearly and fully to yourself where it is you want.
Yeah. 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 That's true. And listen, if you are thinking to yourself, well, I don't have a vision, I don't know, well, then you start at the beginning.
Mhm.
Jamil is no longer at the beginning. We start at the beginning in Vision Builder. And if you think that's a process that you would like to give yourself the opportunity to go through and invest in, then click the link below. Make sure you schedule your complimentary vision call. And we'd love to work with you. Listen, Jamil, thank
Mhm.
you for allowing me to be with you on this journey.
Yes.
It's my pleasure to serve you in this way. And I can't wait to keep growing. I mean, you know,
Yeah. Let's go.
infinity is the limit.
Infinity and beyond.
Right? Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Crystal.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.